Yes, everybody. Happy Saturday, everyone. Russ of the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Thought to bring to you, there's been a lot of movement, a lot of moving parts in the last, say, 24, 36 hours. And just wanted to bring everyone sort of up to pace, really. A few names have also been added to the list as we prepare for the transfer window to slam shut on Monday as we are playing Chelsea at the same bloody time. Why is it always that? I do not know. Let's start from back to front. Let's start from the defence. Now, according to reports, primarily through ex-WHU employee, he states that West Ham's priority in the next few days is to bring in forward players. However, despite that, there has been reports emanating from Italy that West Ham have been added to the list of potential suitors for Genoa defender Cone de Vinta. So could we be making a De Vinta move for De Vinta? Is De Vinta coming? He's a player we've been linked with before. When he was at Juventus, he then went on loan to Genoa, and then that was made permanent in the summer of 2023, I think it was. Typical West Ham signing or potential signing. He got injured this year. He was out for a couple of months with an injury, but still he was first choice in the first starting lineup, basically for Genoa, pre-injury and post-injury. So he's still made about 11, 13 Serie A appearances for Genoa. They're not looking to sell him, but apparently he's available for around 12.5, 13 million quid, about 15 million euros, Belgium international. Now, it's led to be believed that we are looking at evaluating and reinvigorating our defensive lineup in the summer, which to me, I can understand because we've got a number of players out of contract. We've got Cresswell, Soufal, Fabianski, and also we've got to define the permanent whereabouts of Nayef Aguerd following his loan spell with Real Sociedad. Real Sociedad want to buy him, but they basically haven't got no money. And there has been reports that he could be interested in a return back to West Ham under a Graham Potter regime. So I understand why we're waiting for that. We're also led to believe that Caelan Casey has asked West Ham about the possibility of going out on loan before the January window closes. That's been sort of refused, kinda, to say we sort of need to keep you hanging around the first team squad. That's allowed people like Michael Forbes to go back out on loan to Colchester City. Regan Clayton signed for Dagenham Redbridge on loan to the end of the season. Now that was announced yesterday. Although he still captained the under-21 side yesterday as they won 1-0 against Stoke under-21s. Full match report has been delivered on that. We did it immediately after the game live from Rush Green. So the defence is an interesting thing. I think the fact is, I think it's fair to say we do have cover. I'm not saying sufficient cover, but looking at the Aston Villa game, for example, a back three of Cresswell, Kilman, Soufal / Wan-Bissaka, they took it between terms of them, really. We survived not having two of our three first choice centre halves, and we didn't really need to call upon Caelan Casey. And we do have guys in the 21s as well who could potentially step up. Louise Al still hanging around. We've got Ezra Mayes, Edris Golombekis, Josh Briggs. So there's guys who could bring in, Julia Robinson as well. So I understand that. I'd like to, personally, my opinion would be to start the back and move forward. But I think it's fair to say, we've lost two of our main strikers for the remainder of the season, pretty much. So I can see why that's the priority. But someone like De Vinta being available for around 15 million euros seems a bit of a non-starter. We should be there straight away. But as Graham Potter alluded to in his press conference yesterday, signing players is easy, but signing the right players is hard. But apparently, according to reports, we have been added to the list of potential suitors. AC Milan and various others are looking at them in Serie A as well. Now, let's talk Evan Ferguson, who's currently, he hasn't come on, he was on the bench for Brighton. I don't know if he's come on yet, but I'd be surprised if he did. They're like 5-0 down, aren't they? Yeah, 5-0 down for Chris Wood hat-trick. Let me just check quickly. Let's check on the lineups. We're doing this. You can tell we're doing this now. Oh, yeah, he's on. Evan Ferguson is on. He's just come on for the 73rd minute as they're losing 5-0. Now, we're led to be believed there has been a roadblock in negotiations. We have apparently, according to reports, spoken about all the different permutations of a deal with Evan Ferguson. A dry loan, a slightly moist loan, a completely wet loan, and a permanent sale. Now, we're led to be believed, according to Claret and Hugh, amongst others, that basically Brighton don't want to do no longer want to do a loan of obligation or loan of option. They want a straight sell. And we won't be laying 40 million quid out for Evan Ferguson before Monday. So unless there's a stance and change, for me, it could be them trying to flex their muscles a bit. We were led to believe 20 clubs were interested in Evan Ferguson. Although for me, I've only counted 4 clubs have put interest or put offers in. That being us, Chelsea interest, Sunderland were interested about a loan deal, and by Leverkusen. I don't know whether the other 16 haven't presented themselves just yet. But we know Villa have got money on the hip, although they're looking at bringing in Marcus Rashford. But still, they're looking at, Arsenal are looking at bringing in a forward. Looks like they put in offer for Ollie Watkins, but that's been rejected, I believe, because they sold Duran for about 11 million quid more. So we'll see what happens with that. But another name has come up, and it's just been reported about 15 minutes ago on Sky Sports. But we was going to talk about him already, and had him already lined up, and that is the Lorient 18-year-old striker Eli Kroupi Jr. Eli, just make sure you've got your name right. Eli Kroupi Jr. That's it. Yep. Although sometimes he is called Eli Junior Kroupi. So interchangeable. But what's interesting about him is he's a totally different physical, characteristics to Evan Ferguson. Evan Ferguson, I see, as a modern day John Hartson type player. He's a lump. He's skillful. He's a bit injury prone as well, like Johnny was, but a very physically lump. He's a big boy. Eli isn't. He's 5'10". He reminds me, particularly in that picture, he looks very similar to Rob Hall. Do you remember Rob Hall, the academy striker? We've had him on the channel, lovely guy, Rob. But he reminds me of Rob Hall. He looks like a young Rob Hall. And actually very similar in terms of the style of football. He's 5'10". He's more diminutive. He's very quick. But we're led to be believed, one of Europe's hottest prospects. And a number of clubs have got him on their hit list. Now, we are led to be believed that West Ham have sent scouts to see him on a couple of occasions, particularly last Saturday when Lorient played Red Star in Ligue 2. He's got 50 first-team appearances under his belt for Lorient, both in Ligue 1 and Ligue 2, because they were relegated last year, and also the Coupe de France. He has around 20 goal contributions in those 50 appearances. So 1 in every 2.5, about 15 goals. So, he's young, but I wouldn't say, we had this debate yesterday. What's prolific mean? He's too young, I think, to establish being prolific, but very much on the West Ham MO style. I think actually people like Eli, people like Kone, people like Tyler Morton as well. It's not surprising. I think we've come up with these players' names primarily since Carl McCauley's come in. He's only been here a week, and it does seem to be that we are looking at these types of players. Now, we're led to be believed, according to Sky Sports and several other sources, that West Ham are in talks with Lorient for him, and some have suggested a package of 30 million pounds has been put together. Is it pounds or euros? Well, it's okay. 20 to 30 million pounds. We'll cover ourselves then. Obviously, that will be a straight fee with add-ons. Now we're just in our West Ham network WhatsApp. Cess says he's got that sort of Hugo Ekitike vibes, and Hugo is absolutely smashing it for Eintracht Frankfurt at the moment. So I think it's going to be. I mean, he's got 8 goals and 2 assists so far in Liga. He's a French youth international, represented France in 16, 17, 18s, and 19s. And I think, I mean, he's according to some, he's one of the most highly regarded, players to come out of France. Could be a real coup for West Ham. We've been here before, though, haven't we, with these types of players? Again, Hugo Gattigue we spoke about, Abdoulaye Sima. There's always these sort of young... Oh, my chair just went down there. There's always sort of young players we tend to be linked with occasionally. But we'll see. Would be really interesting to see. I mean, majority of his games appearances have been as a centre forward, but he has played on the left. He's played, I think, all across that front three, realistically, during his time for Lorient. But and I quite like saying Lorient. So there we go. One name that hasn't gone away yet is Arthur Cabral, and it's got all quiet on the Arthur front. And I'm all for that. Where everyone else, we seem to have a lot of chatter about the likes of Evan Ferguson and various other players we've been linked with. We haven't had any confirmation or denial about Arthur Cabral. Now, according to a report in Record, the Portuguese news outlet yesterday, he's due to sign for West Ham for 18 million euros. And by the sounds of it, they've already lined up his replacement, former West Ham linked player, Antonio Bellotti. Now, I think that's really interesting. I think it's really interesting also because we haven't really had any situation where they've gone, no, he's not someone who's coming. He's someone we've always had an interest in, particularly during his time at Basel. Not prolific, but has that sort of... Oh, well, I wouldn't even say Antonio was prolific, or is prolific, but he brings that sort of front man, tireless running, likes to really get into defenders' faces and things like that. And for 15 million quid, I don't think you can go wrong, really. He's 26, 27, I think. So he's still got many years ahead of him. And actually, you made your money back, really, because he comes from a Premier League side. So the chances are, if it doesn't work, he can go to a Turkish side, or he can go to a La Liga side, or someone like that. And you've made your money back, if not a little bit more, because you'll still be, give him 18 months and it'll still be 27, 28. And yeah, we'd still have, money in the bank with him. It's not like it's his last move or anything like that. And whether that's a backup to someone like Eli, I don't know. But that rumour hasn't gone away. It hasn't been denied. Another rumour which has not necessarily gone away, but sort of emerged in, and I haven't got a slide for it, unfortunately, is Lloyd Kelly. A report today suggested that West Ham were looking at Lloyd Kelly as a short-term loan spell. The former Bournemouth, current Newcastle United player. And for me, it might be a case that someone like Cody De Vinter, you bring him in the summer and we need a little bit of extra something in that defence, and Lloyd can come in. He plays left of a back three. He's sort of like what Aaron Cresswell did about 4 or 5 years ago, where he could do both reasonably well. The report suggested that we're going to plot a late raid for the 26-year-old backup player before the transfer window slams shut. He's struggled to find any sort of form and presence at Newcastle since signing on a free transfer. Again, we were linked with him during that time. But he's a very versatile player, and that's obviously could be a premium. He's only played less than 600 minutes across 13 appearances in all competitions for Newcastle this year. So it's hardly surprising that, potentially he's looking at getting some game time outside of Newcastle. And other clubs have been outside of the Premier League. The likes of Borussia Dortmund, Juventus are looking at him as well. But we're led to believe that West Ham are going to try and chance our arm to bring him in. Obviously, we've been linked with the likes of Craig Dawson, linked with the likes of Adam Webster. And yes, it looks like Ben Chilwell's off. Player we linked to, it looks like he's off to Palace. So we know that's something he was looking at. Do we really need him? I think if he's coming for the centre half position, yes, but on the left hand side of like a left back, left wing back, I don't think we do. With Emerson and Ollie Scarles eventually taking over that number 3 berth, so to speak. But it's going to be interesting to see if we put a late move in for him. He's, it gives you the options as well. I mean, as I said, looking at the centre half positions, we do have options there. We could also put in Edson Alvarez if need be. Thomas Souček's deputised there as well. But someone who's a recognised centre half, I think, is obviously better for us. And it seems that we'll look at the low market to bring that in, unless we're going to spend this 30 million quid to bring in someone like De Winter. But could De Winter be coming in the summer? I don't know. But there is your little roundup. Let us know what you think about Eli, for example. I mean, he's young, he's hungry. He's very different to obviously Evan Ferguson, which slightly concerns me because you think, well, he hasn't. It doesn't. It means that there's different ways of playing. Different ways we can play. We can bring the side together. But clearly, with your number one target being someone who's a bit of a lump, then bringing someone who's a bit smaller and more nimble and quicker does maybe suggest a different style maybe for him. Maybe we could offer, you could still have that lump up top by bringing it, Paqueta's been doing that job a little bit. Against Villa, he did that. Thomas Souček could always do that. That tends to happen when we had like a smaller man up front. Souček would push forward a bit. And also we found out the other day that obviously Thomas Souček was on Graham Potter's wish list when he was in Brighton, which surprised me amongst others. But all those revelations in the West Ham network. But hope you have a great rest of the day. West Ham can't ruin today, can't ruin tomorrow. We can ruin Monday. Much love. Bye-bye.